Hey, it's Ada with Workman Firearms. Today I'll be showing you how to mount the Holosun 507K to your Glock 43X. It's pretty simple. I'm just going to go over everything that you're going to need to get this installation done quick and easy. Let's get to it. Okay, so I'm going to be showing you what we're going to be working with today. We're going to have a TX10 screwdriver, and then we're going to have a torque wrench with a TX10 bit on it as well. A parts container just to keep everything organized so you don't lose anything. Some blue Loctite. And then today we have our mounting plate from C&H Precision. We've only had good things with these guys. I have a couple of other firearms that I run with their adapter plates, and it's phenomenal work. It's great machinist work, and that's what we're going to be using for the Glock 43X today. We got our Holosun 507K that we're going to be mounting, and then of course, lastly, we have our Glock 43X. So let's jump into it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to be doing is clearing my firearm first. Always remove that source ammunition, and then lock the slide to the rear. From here, physically and visually inspect that chamber. Inspect your magazine well. One last time, physically and visually inspect that chamber. Alright, our firearm's clear. Now, when I'm mounting my optic today, I'm going to be taking off the slide. So I'm pressing my trigger, overhand grip, pull that slide 1/8 inch back, pull down on your slide lock, and then push that slide forward. That slide will come right off. I'm just going to set my frame aside, and I'll come back to that later. I'm going to disassemble the internals. I'm going to take that recoil spring assembly out. And I'm also going to take my barrel out. And now I'm just going to be working with my slide. I'm going to set this aside and come back to it. I'm going to open up my mounting plate. I'm going to take out the screws. Now the screws that came with the Glock 43X, that is only for the cover plate. We're not going to be using those screws when mounting the Holosun 507. So I'll set that aside. I have my mounting plate. This is the plate that we're going to be using. I'll put that aside too, my parts container. I'll be coming back to that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my slide set up, and then I'm going to go over installation of the Holosun. Now when you get your Holosun, there's a couple things that come inside. Always hang on to that owner's manual. It's always going to be handy. So I'll take out my optic. I'll take out the screws that come with it. And then I'm going to take out my Holosun multi-tool as well. Now, when installing this optic, it's very crucial to know that the screws that you're going to be using, they cannot exceed 8 millimeters. They cannot exceed 8 millimeters. If they do, they can mess with the firing pin and the firing pin safety. So you just measure screws, whichever screws that you choose to use, make sure they are no longer than 8 millimeters. This screw right here, this is the one that came with the C&H mounting plate, and the one right next to it is the one that came with the 507K. Now, our screw cannot exceed 8 millimeters. So we all know that 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters. So the screw that came with the mounting plate is just about 10 millimeters. So we're going to stay away from this one. Now the screw that came with the Holosun 507K reaches 8 millimeters right on the dot. So this is the one that we're going to be going with today. So use the screw that came with the 507K and not the one that came with the mounting plate. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put my slide in a nice stable device, and you can always just take a towel, wrap it around the slide, and then put it in a vise if you want it in a stable platform. Or honestly, you can just do this by holding it with one hand and then using the other hand to work on your slide. It's not a big deal. I'm just doing this because it's going to save some time, makes life easier. Now I'm going to take my TX10 wrench and we're going to start unscrewing the cover plate. Just going to set those aside. That cover plate's going to come right off. And then if there's any grease or oil, you're always going to want to just take a little Q-tip, take a rag, and clean that off. Now from here, I'm going to take my mounting plate. I'll drop my mounting plate right in. It just sets down right in there very easily. Now from here, once that mounting plate is nice and flush, I'm going to take my optic. I'll set my optic down. Once you set your optic down, make sure that it's flush, it's seated correctly. There's no gaps or anything like that. Get down at eye level, make sure it's all good. Looks good to me. Now from there, we're going to be taking those correct screws. So the ones that came with the Holosun. I'm always going to reapply my blue Loctite just because you really don't know how long those screws have been sitting in a warehouse. If the Loctite is even good anymore. So I'll put just a little bit of amount on there. And then first I'm just going to drop it down in there. I'm not going to screw it down yet. I'll do that to both of them. Okay, and then from here, I'm going to be adjusting my torque wrench to 13 foot-pounds per inch. Once I've done that, I'm going to slowly start screwing the screws down into my optic. I'm going to do it one at a time, or one side at a time. And you're going to screw them so they're equally as taut on each side. You don't want to ratchet one down first and then ratchet the other down. You're going to just mess with your optic. I'll make sure that it's set to 13 inches per pound. Now from here, you can wipe away if there's any excess Loctite. And then you're just going to make sure that you wait 30 minutes for it to dry before you actually run the firearm and check the cycle of operations. Make sure that's cycling correctly. Okay. Now I'm going to take my slide off. I'm going to reassemble this firearm. Okay, I'm going to grab my frame, set that over here. Take your barrel, drop your barrel back in. Grab your recoil spring assembly. Push that in, make sure it's aligned with your barrel lug. Always check alignment, make sure that's correctly aligned. Grab your frame, align the frame rails with your slide, and slowly guide it back onto the frame. Give it a nice rack. Now we're going to perform a quick function check on it. Rack that slide again. Press in your trigger. Hold the trigger to the rear and rack that slide a second time. Slowly release, listening for the reset. All right, we just reassembled it correctly and you just installed your 507K. Now you can take this to the range, sight it in, check the functionality of it. Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe.